On this edition of The Best Times, we discuss the importance of Social Security as retirement income for women. You'll ride with boomer bikers who are pedaling to stay healthy. And we'll learn why the Mid-South is at the center of the stroke belt. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to this edition of The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. Social Security is the cornerstone of anyone's financial retirement plan. It's the only savings that you can't outlive. But consider this, women live longer than men on average. They are more likely to be single and to depend on one income as they age. Women make up 56% of Social Security beneficiaries over age 62 and 66% of those 85 and older. All of which makes it imperative to understand the ways women can make the most of their Social Security benefits. In doing the research on this segment, I came across a statistic that was rather eye-opening, I think, to me at least. 2015, which is the latest statistic I have, Social Security benefits, annual benefits for women were a little over $14,000, $14,184. Men, their annual benefit was $18,000, roughly $4,000 difference. Why the difference between men and women when it comes to Social Security benefits?
Well, there's a couple of different reasons. Number one, females tend to earn less, like 77 cents on the dollar for what a male earns. And women also have a tendency to leave the workforce to have children, raise children, take care of elderly parents, so there's just less income earned in the system, to determine what the benefit will be.
So I guess bottom line for women here would be understand and know what your benefit is.
Absolutely, and how you can increase your benefit.
And how you can plan for that.
Correct.
Let's talk about some specific issues specific to women.
Okay.
And let's talk marriage. For example, let's take the example of a woman who's been married, never worked outside the house, therefore does not have a work record with Social Security. Is she eligible for Social Security benefits?
Yes, she is eligible for a spousal benefit, which if she waits until full retirement age will be half of what her spouse's benefit is. It's reduced if you take the benefit early, between 62 and 66 or 67, depending on what year a person was born. But let's say that your spouse's benefit was $2,000, you would be eligible for $1,000 at full retirement age.
Let's take another marriage example, or actually not marriage example, divorce. What happens in the case of divorce?
Well, if you are divorced and you were married for at least 10 years, then you have, and you don't get remarried, then you would be eligible for a spousal benefit off of your divorced spouse's record, or your own if you have worked, whichever is greater. So they always determine what the highest benefit will be. And you can't, if you get married after age 60, then you can still collect off of a divorced spouse.
Does the divorced spouse know that this is happening?
No.
No, they don't have to be any contact.
No, but you need to keep records of your when you got married, when you got divorced, because that does have to be presented at the Social Security office, in order to be able to collect off of a divorced spouse if you're eligible.
How does Social Security deal with the death of a spouse?
Well, when one spouse dies, let's use the example that we just used. The one person, the higher earner, is at $2,000 a month, and the spouse that didn't work was $1,000 a month. At the death of the spouse, her lower amount would go away, and she would collect the $2,000. So you get the higher of the two benefits.
No double dipping here.
No double dipping. Yeah. And that's a common misunderstanding with people, and I've seen people get really upset that, you know, why shouldn't I be able to collect both? But that's not how it works.
Not the way it works, does
right.
it? And there was also a one-time death benefit payment, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's never been increased for inflation, so it's about $255.
Let's talk about name changes, because women can go through many name changes through marriage, divorce, remarriage, etc. Does Social Security keep track of all of that information?
They do not keep track of it. You can inform them when that happens, but I always recommend that people just keep good records and keep them, because you do have to be able to present and prove to Social Security if you haven't informed them at the time that a divorce happens or a marriage happens. You know, a lot of times people will go in and change their name, and so the Social Security Administration would be made aware of that. But the onus is always on the taxpayer. And because your Social Security number is what your benefit is tied to, it's not really that big of a deal on whether or not you've changed names.
Now, in many couples, both spouses work. What's the best Social Security strategy when it's in a situation like that, where you both have a work history with Social Security?
Well, they're going to, Social Security is going to look at, for both people, are your own benefits higher based on your work record or half of your spouse's. So in general, I say it's not the best idea to start taking at age 62 for a number of reasons. Not always, but I'm speaking in kind of big picture, or on average, I guess. It's not always a good idea to start at age 62, but we encourage people to do a plan and look at all the different scenarios so you can maximize the benefit for both of you. And because there's a significant increase if you wait from age 66 to age 70 or 67 to age 70, you get a big jump, 8% per year, then that's definitely worth considering for at least one spouse.
Tell me more about that strategy, which applies to men as well as women.
Right.
But I read a statistic, 39% of women take their Social Security at age 62.
Right.
Why is that not a good idea, a good strategy?
Well, first of all, you have permanently reduced your benefit for the rest of your life. You only get 75% of your benefit at age 62 versus waiting till age 66 or 67, you get the full 100%. So that's a 25% reduction that will be there for the rest of your life. If you live into your 90s, and you look at the difference between waiting till age 66 versus 62, it's dramatic, a dramatic increase. So that's, it's just, if there's health issues involved, there are some reasons that it can be a good idea to take the money at age 62, but a lot of people just do it because they can, and they end up compromising their future over it.
You think that's the biggest mistake that's often made by people?
Yes, absolutely. I've had so many people over the years that took it early, that even when we recommend that they wait, and the large percentage of them say they wish they had waited in retrospect.
What's the number one advice you would give to women regarding their Social Security benefits, increasing their income in Social Security?
Well, if for a woman that is single by way of never being married or divorced or widowed, if you're working and you're in a job that is paying you well, the longer you work, because the formula is they take your 35 highest years of earning, and then earnings that you made 25 or 30 years ago are going to be indexed for inflation to bring it to today's dollars. But if you have any zeros in those 35 years, for every year that you work, you're replacing one of those zeros. Also, if you start taking it at age 62, you can only earn $17,000 a year before your benefit starts being reduced. So you're working longer helps people pay off debt. Maybe you can get your house paid off, or if you have credit card debt that you don't carry into retirement, it allows you to save more. For every year you're working, you have the opportunity to save some of that, get an employer match. If you have a 401k, that can help shore up your savings and investments. And the longer you can work towards age 70, it's really, that's the less, fewer number of years that you have to rely on your own savings and investments, but you get a higher payout from Social Security, which is going to last for the rest of your life.
Well, Kathy, thank you very much for being on The Best Times talking about Social Security and women.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For more information about Social Security, go to their website or contact the local Social Security office. Bike riding isn't just for kids anymore. In fact, the number of kids riding bikes actually declined in the last decade, while the baby boomers have grown to become about 1/3 of the biking population. And here in Memphis, the Shelby Farms Green Line, the Wolf River Greenway, off-road trails, and dedicated bike lanes have inspired people to get back on the bike, in some cases for the first time in 30 or 40 years. Cycling regularly can benefit your cardiovascular system, increase your strength and flexibility, improve joint mobility, and even help you lose weight. Let's take a look at this latest trend of boomer biking. On a midsummer's evening, a group of cyclists gather outside the Peddler Bike Shop for the weekly Tuesday beginner's ride. They'll ride from the University of Memphis area to Overton Park and back, a distance of about 10 miles. Hal Mabry, owner of the Peddler, has seen more boomers come back to biking recently.
Yes, we've been noticing that for a few years. People wanting to get busy, get off the couch, early retirement, and get active again.
Gary Wyndham is a 61-year-old former runner who came back to biking a few years ago because he was looking for an exercise that was less stressful on his body.
You're pounding your body, and the older you get, you say, well, maybe I don't need to do this as much. But yeah, I think with the biking, I see a lot more older people.
As Hal Mabry points out, the exercise benefits of biking serve the health needs of older riders.
You get your heart rate up, get your blood pumping. It can help fight diabetes, easier on the joints than running and even walking. You can go farther, see more stuff on a bicycle than you can on your feet.
Robin Boyd came back to biking 2 years ago at age 57, after 30 years off the bike. For him, the health rewards of cycling go beyond the physical benefits.
The benefit of being in the moment. You're on a bike, you're not worried about what happened yesterday or what might happen tomorrow. You're thinking about what's happening right now. And it takes you away from other obstacles or distractions, and you're able to concentrate on the moment.
And for the cyclists gathering for the Peddler's Tuesday ride, there is yet another benefit of biking: socialization.
As we move into our 50s, the riding has provided an opportunity to expand that friend group, that friend set. I think it's sharpened my mind. It's that expansion. We always have to be learning new things. Always being exposed to new experiences. And there's not a better way to do that than a good interaction with good people, or like-minded people.
Modern bicycle shops like the Peddler have an enormous selection of bikes to fit the needs of riders of all ages. Choosing a bike can be overwhelming, but fitting the bike to the rider's style of riding is important.
Well, I want them to feel secure and comfortable on the bicycle. And I'll ask what type of riding they want to do. A lot of times it's pull around my neighborhood or ride the Green Line. And then I want to find a bike that's stable, that's not, doesn't have them perched up high where they don't have good control, the one that's a little closer to the ground.
For older riders coming back into biking, Hal recommends a cruiser bike.
The electric cruisers are the first bike I'll go to, and that is a foot forward position on the bike so that you're pedaling out in front of you, similar to a recumbent. And then when you drop a foot, you're more likely to get your foot flat on the ground and get stability.
There are road bikes designed for riding on pavement, mountain bikes for riding on trails, and hybrids that can adapt to a wide variety of terrain. There are bikes like this one that put the rider in a comfortable chair, and there are even three-wheel bikes for people with balance issues. You can spend anywhere from a few hundred to several $1,000s. Memphis now has over 100 miles of bike lanes, bike paths, and trails, including the Green Line, which stretches from Midtown to Shelby Farms, with plans to extend it all the way to Cordova. It's one of the reasons Memphis was named the most improved city for cycling in 2012 by Bicycling Magazine.
I think my first introduction to the Green Line was here at Bullen Station, and moving west over the bridges, over the, I guess, the Wolf River bottoms. You can get into it on a bike or on foot and not even realize that you're here in Memphis.
Whether you're riding the Green Line or just pedaling around your neighborhood, Robin Boyd has some words of wisdom for boomer bikers.
The soul of biking is not how fast you go or how far you go, but the ride itself.
If you want more information about biking in and around Memphis, go to the website of BikePed Memphis. Almost 800,000 Americans will suffer a stroke this year. It is the fifth leading cause of death in this country. Some people can recover completely from a stroke, but more than 2/3 of survivors will have some degree of disability. 80% of strokes can be prevented, but 1/3 of Americans can't identify even one of the warning signs of stroke. Can you? Knowing more about strokes can save lives, maybe yours. What is a stroke?
Stroke is a very common and devastating condition. It's the #1 leading cause of permanent disability in adults in the United States and worldwide. It is caused by either disruption of the blood flow to the brain by a blood clot that blocks the brain vessel, or by leaky vessel that produces bleeding to the brain. Unfortunately, we live in southeastern United States, which is also known as stroke belt of the United States. So everyone who is born here is twice likely to experience stroke in their lifetime compared to the same ethnic genetic make born anywhere else in the United States.
What are the types of strokes?
It's called ischemic or hemorrhagic. These are the terms. So ischemic stroke is the one where blood clot lodges in the brain vessel kind of in the wrong time and the wrong place and precludes blood flow to the brain. Or bleeding to the brain occurs, and that would be hemorrhagic stroke. And this type of stroke is usually caused by high blood pressure and the wear and tear of blood vessels, and then they break off and leak blood flow.
What is a TIA stroke?
TIA is a transient ischemic attack, or some people call it a mini stroke. I'd like to call it a warning that a bigger stroke is coming. And TIA is a transient disruption of blood flow. It is almost always due to blood clot passing through the blood vessels or some blood flow changes that causes malfunction of brain tissue. But the good news is that it is transient, and the true TIAs do not leave any damage to the brain.
What are the symptoms?
What people need to know is FAST. Abbreviation is FAST. Face, arm, speech, time. So droopiness of the face, weakness of one side of the body, speech disturbances when the person cannot get the words out right, the person slurs words or finds the wrong words to express themselves, and then time. Time is of the essence. So the first 60 minutes from these symptom onset, whether it is transient or not, the first 60 minutes will largely determine how the person spends the rest of their lives.
Who is at risk?
A combination of high blood pressure, overweight, lack of exercise, poor dietary habits, and predisposition to these events, because those things tend to run in the family. So, and these are just very few risk factors. I'm not even talking about smoking and some other obvious things.
What treatment is available?
The only medical treatment that's capable of reversing this disability is called a tissue plasminogen activator, TPA. Simple way to remember, it's clot buster. So if someone has a stroke, you need to ask, bring me to the center that gives clot busting medicine. In Tennessee, we're hoping to have the system statewide geared up like trauma. So you don't bring trauma to the nearest walk-in emergency room, you bring it to the trauma center. So equally so, we would like to have certified stroke centers and the whole state mapped out so the EMS know exactly where to bring the patient.
This truck is part of the future that's changing the outcome for stroke patients in the Mid-South. The mobile stroke unit ambulance is on the streets of Memphis. On board is a portable CT scan capable of identifying a stroke within the vital first minutes of an attack. Dr. Ann Alexandrov is the chief nurse practitioner on the mobile stroke unit.
The mobile stroke unit's actually capable of replacing the emergency department. So if 911 is activating us and we get out to the scene, we're going to do everything that that emergency department would do had you gone into there first. The difference is that according to our data, we're going to do it 72 minutes faster. That's a lot of brain cells that we're saving. And so there's a huge advantage to having one of these in your city.
Only 8 of these ambulances exist in the country, with 4 more in development. It's an expensive piece of equipment, but it's a vital life-saving tool. Just ask 73-year-old Jerry Sandlin. His cross-country flight was diverted to Memphis when he suffered a stroke in midair. The stroke ambulance was waiting on the tarmac when the plane landed.
We quickly got him into the CT scanner and had that CT completed in a little over 3 minutes, which enabled us then to determine, was this a hemorrhage in the brain or was it a clogged artery? And it was a clogged artery, and it was sadly the worst artery in the brain that you can clog. It's a killer, what this man was having. So we quickly got his blood pressure under control and started a clot-busting drug. That drug is called Alteplase, or TPA, and got that infused into him.
Jerry Sandlin survived his stroke with no lasting damage.
Quick treatment allows us to do things that the average stroke patient that waits too long would not be a candidate for.
While clot-busting drugs are today's weapons to fight strokes, research into new technology could be a breakthrough in stroke treatment in the future.
We could look for technology that could augment the TPA. For example, on our team, my husband, Dr. Andrei Alexandrov, who's a vascular neurologist, does research with ultrasound-enhanced thrombolysis. So similar to what you think about with kidney stones that can get busted with ultrasound, we have technology that you place onto the brain, and an ultrasound beam then goes through the skull, so it's non-invasive, and is able to intercept the clot. And we're hopeful that maybe in the future we'll see that in combination with TPA, especially for patients that are far away from physicians like these endovascular specialists, could have that started and then transported with that running, and maybe by the time they got to the hospital, they'd be in very good condition.
For more information about strokes, go to the website of the Stroke Association. Want more information about life after 50? Go online to watch more shows and find more resources. And send us your feedback and story ideas to besttimes@wkno.org. That's all for this edition of The Best Times. Please join us next week for more stories about life after 50. Until then, I'm Chris Hardaway. Thanks for watching. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you.